you got a 6-1 Packer team that's firing pretty good on all cylinders against Arizona 7-0, and they seem to be the new up and coming, quick rising team to Super Bowl prominence, perhaps, and they are good. But the Packers, all of a sudden, James, now you got Devontae Adams, who has tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
And now there's a huge threat, since this is a Thursday game and not a Sunday game,
right,
that he's not going to play. And I find this somewhat amusing that, and I'm sure you did the same thing this morning. You're watching some of these talk shows on the networks, and they're like, Green Bay's best player is going to be out. They have no chance to beat Arizona. And I'm thinking, is Aaron Rodgers out of the game?
Right.
Right. Who is the best player on the Packers right now? And I'm not saying Adams doesn't rate. He's the best receiver. He's the best offense. He's the second best player on this team, though, isn't he?
Yeah. And that's the thing. The Packers, much like the Bucs, they have a ton of injuries, ton on the defensive side. And so I think that there's really – what are you going to do about it, right? Aaron's got to go out and spread the ball out. We saw last week that Lazard got involved and Tunyon got involved. So it's not that they don't have weapons, but it's obviously they are at a disadvantage with all the injuries and no Adams. But you still have Aaron Rodgers. So, you still got to feel good going into it. You have the better quarterback. Kyler he's very good, but he's not Aaron Rodgers.
No, and Aaron Rodgers, look, outside of that first game in Jacksonville, which clearly turned out to be a preseason game in the mind of number 12, since he never played in a preseason game this year. He sat out, protect the injury. You got to respect that. NFL seasons, they increased it by games. They're playing 17 games this year. You're going to lose some games along the way. To strategically choose to lose game one, if you will, and then know
interesting.
That it is kind of interesting. But who else, and I'm not putting this guy on any bigger and higher of a pedestal than he's already done for himself or Packer fans have. That's all great. I get it. But the dude does have a plan in his head, and you just don't know it sometimes until the game unfolds. So I'm thinking to myself, they've missed some games without Adams. If I saw this stat right, he has missed 6 games in his career, and guess what the Packers' record is? 6-0.
Oh, really?
they have figured out a way. He hasn't missed much, but it is interesting that they are 6-0 when he misses games. So okay. So I'm not ruling out Thursday. I'm going to be hyped up. There's no Bucs game that night.
Right.
There's the activity that you and I will be sitting in front of the couch. We'll be sipping and having a good time, right? Parties, whatever. That's what the state of Wisconsin should still be doing on Thursday night, whether Adams plays or not. If 12's on the field, they still have a legitimately good shot at pulling something off. And if they scheme and do things right and make adjustments, who knows, right?
Right. And Randall Cobb hasn't had a huge game yet. Well, he had the couple touchdowns, but there's still kind of a lot of familiarity for Aaron. Like it's not that he throws to Adams a lot, but it's not like these other guys aren't running routes either. You're still an NFL team with NFL receivers, and you have one of the best quarterbacks in the game and a good run game. So it might change the game plan a little bit, but I don't think there's any need to panic and just assume it's a loss.
No, and they Adams has as many catches as everybody else on the team right now. So, to me, it still opens the door. Just that's how this works. It opens the door. You still got to play the game. And I hope he can make it back, but it seems a little bit unlikely here. So, and that's life in the big city. What do you do? So it's still,
and it's week 7. So there's plenty of time. And if anything else, it's a good game for a Lazard or or Tunyon to go off and rebuild that chemistry kind of that they had last year. So, I'm sure that we've seen Aaron Jones have 4 touchdown games. So it's not like they're going in there with no weapons.
No, and I think, if you look at the Packers too, and you look at what they've done over the last, there's this 6-game winning streak too. I think that there's definitely the continuity on offense is building and getting better. And I think the defense, I mean, you talk about the Bucs overcoming some injuries right now, it's like one by one, the Packers are losing some key guys. They've done a nice job, not just filling in though, but I think they've taken, those steps you want to keep taking with these guys, and things are improving along the way. However, Joe Barry, their defensive coordinator, won't be there because he's also tested positive for COVID as well. So there's some things to overcome here. There's no question about that. You're not gonna be hearing the voice. You're not gonna be being led this week and stuff because he's not allowed to be there. But they are doing what we're doing. They are, doing the Zooms and having their meetings still with people. So hopefully that'll still work out. But defensively, they've hung in there pretty nicely, I think.
Yeah, and it's been kind of patchwork on defense. Obviously when Jair Alexander went down, and Kevin King, there was a lot of what's going to happen. But we saw Stokes is stepped up and played the way that he needs to play. And I think it's all going to be a little bit of patchwork and making sure that, guys cover each other, integrate the new linebackers that seem to pop up every week. I don't even know who is in their linebacking core at this point, but rotating door, and they keep winning. So hopefully more of the same.
Well, I think, maybe a final thought on the Packers here too, James. They're in the last couple of weeks, you look at their schedule, and they did make a nice run here, 6-0. Now the next 3 weeks, you've got the short week at Arizona. They've got the best record in the league, and that's a road game. And then you get 9 or 10 days between games. But your next game's a road game at Kansas City. They're the surprisingly biggest disappointment in the league.
Yeah.
Mahomes isn't playing up to par. Nobody on that team is collectively right now. They're at a pace now where they're not even going to come close to making the playoffs, which is a shocker. And then you got Seattle after that. And Russell Wilson probably won't be playing in that game because of the broken finger and stuff. So now you're kind of looking at this saying this is going to be the toughest stretch of the season, perhaps for the Packers. But is it? Now you're probably not going to have your best receiver. You're not going to have your defensive coordinator on the short week against the best team right now in the league. I say be as competitive as you can.
Yeah.
And cross your fingers, hope there's no more injuries coming out of Thursday. And then you rest up and you look at those other 2 games I'm talking about and you say, well, those are actually kind of winnable now.
Right. And if you take those, even if you lose this one and take those 2, you're looking at 8-2.
Right. Versus a threat. Well, maybe they could lose all 3 of those games, right? If Kansas City's playing right and Wilson's playing for Seattle.
Right. And I don't think if you're upset about 8-2, then you're not being an honest fan. It's still the NFL. You know what I mean? We just look at the Bengals game. They could have lost that game. I mean, there's still a lot of, I guess you would say, good fortune and luck going their way. So, anything could happen on Thursday.
Yeah. By the way, I've heard you complain about 8-2 records before. So,
well, I want a perfect record.
Of course.
That's what a fan does.
Going 82-0 after they won their first game against the Nets.
I think part of being a fan is having the ability to complain about the things that you shouldn't probably complain about. We have a championship team and we're still going to complain.
Since we're all smiles right now, I'm just going to do one more Packer topic here.
Yeah.
And I think, watching these games, it's kind of been brought up over the last couple of weeks, and I think especially and I'm zeroing in on Aaron Rodgers here. The Bears "I own you" statement he made after running and scoring that touchdown, and then this guy has been kind of all smiles, and winning obviously makes that easy to do. We talked about the Bucs having a championship swagger now. He hadn't won a championship in 10 or 11 years. He's only won one. He has a different swagger about him right now too. Are you sensing that maybe he's actually having fun and he's not crabby old man halfway through some of these games like we've seen in the last few years?
I wonder too, like, as a fan and for us, it was terrible, the offseason. But maybe it was something that he needed to do. Maybe it was something that he needed to come out and voice his frustrations, and that kind of set him free clearly he's at a point where he feels like he can say and do whatever he wants. And maybe that's kind of put him back in his comfort zone of feeling and acting like the best quarterback in the league. Clearly the team responded. They brought back Randall Cobb, and he's said that they've had better conversations. So, maybe all that was necessary for a relationship that had gone on for a very long time, and kind of changed guard halfway through. And he's got this young coach and young GM or not young GM, but, new GM. And maybe that was the necessary thing for him to get his swagger back. 'Cause you definitely do see it. And you definitely, maybe it's something that we're paying attention to more than previous years, but it seems like the camera is catching a lot of smirks and winks and, and I think obviously the relationship with Devontae and kind of being declared the best, if not, one of the best, if not the best receiver in the league the last year. Maybe that's all kind of the swagger that is needed to remind them, how good they are.
I think we're seeing a team that from top to bottom seems to be all in. Shocker.
Right.
The acquisitions they've made to help plug some holes and to say we can be better, especially obviously defensively we're talking about here. But that's a good thing. And you know what? If that's what he's wanted all these years and they're finally giving it to him and they're kind of all in saying we can win this thing.
Yeah.
That does bring a smile to a guy's face, maybe a little bit more in that case. That's for sure.
I don't know. Did you see what Tom Brady had to say about the whole "I own you" thing?
Yeah. Refresh my memory though.
So I guess he was on a podcast and he congratulated Aaron Rodgers for being apparently a shareholder of the Chicago Bears. So it's kind of funny that you don't necessarily see that from Brady much either, at least not that kind of. Their relationship seems to have become more of a public thing in the last year too, which I think is kind of interesting. And maybe some of that is the reason Aaron feels so good. He's obviously gotten a lot of public respect. So it's just kind of a funny story that I thought was interesting that Tom Brady went out and made that comment.
Well, Tom Brady has been, he was on the Manning's version of Monday Night Football last night. I mean, he's popping up everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, Aaron Rodgers start popping up a little bit like that as well. He's probably not as out there, but you could also argue being Jeopardy and all the commercials and all, that he actually is. But I think that's a good thing. I mean, these are two guys that are pretty close in age and have had, high success. Tom Brady's had the highest level success. Right. You could count on probably 3 fingers. Guys, maybe a hand of guys in history that have won as many championships as he has. But I think it's a good thing. This is a day and age where look what we're doing here for the first time. We're doing our podcast for the first time. It's out there. You know,
Yeah.
people want to hear what you have to say. And I think it's great that, you know, both these guys are doing it. Maybe Tom Brady can pull a little bit more out of Aaron Rodgers, you know.
It's just two old guys having fun.
Just two old cranky guys. So we got one old cranky guy and one younger guy here on this one, but you know, you're cranky too sometimes, by the way.
From time to time. Depends how much you're listening to me.
Exactly.